things about the Holocaust, but there were tons of things that you weren't told about the Holocaust. Like, I think the thing that...
My God, Candace, you have been handed over to a debased mind, really. The hate in her is so ugly. It's so ugly. There's no truth there. There's no honesty. There's no discernment. God's handed her over. Yeah, I mean, this is why it's a dangerous place to go down this road. Everything to her is some conspiracy theory when it comes to the Holocaust. And I don't know why people go down that track, especially when there's so much evidence. I mean, there's so much evidence because of IBM, as I've said before. They kept great records of the 6 million atrocities. And when you can't even take any of that into consideration, and then you just see all this hate and all of this nasty and ugliness within her soul, she's rot. I don't even know if she can be saved. To me, it's like God's handed her over because she gets worse over time. So in this clip, she's going on about the Havara Agreement. She wants to make some big deal, conspiracy out of this. No, what it was in 1933, there was an agreement made between the Zionists, because she hates the Zionists, okay? These people hate the Zionists, just like Dave Smith. I mean, he's a Jew, but he hates Zionism. He hates Israel. He hates Jewish. I mean, you know, he's probably an Edomite. Anyway, the Havara Agreement was Zionists with Nazis, and what it was here. It was basically the Zionists were trying to get out. This was obviously before, you know, the big ordeal took place, and early on, the Nazis just any way they could be Jew-free, they were happy. But then they quickly shut this down, and nobody could immigrate. It was established in 1933 between Nazi Germany and Zionist organizations. It enabled thousands of German Jews to immigrate to the British Mandatory Palestine, because the British had a mandate over Palestine. The thing is you had to be wealthy. Now that's probably where she's getting this conspiracy theory. But the reason you had to be was because Britain wasn't going to pay for them to live there. And most other countries wouldn't accept them. Like the UK would, but it was very few. We've always been rather nasty. We even after the Holocaust, I've done videos about how we were letting tons of the Nazis in, but we were turning even the Jewish survivors away. But it goes earlier than that. Just wait. But of course, God predicted all this in the Bible. So there were some requirements, okay? Immigrants had to possess enough wealth to participate, so that it would require liquidating property to buy German goods exported to Palestine, because there was really nothing in Palestine. So they had to be able to have enough money to build a garden, survive, because Britain wasn't going to pay them. So that's why. She, of course, turns it as if certain Jews, yeah, they were. I mean, but that's like any time in history. I mean, if you have more money, likely, But this was not any nefarious thing. The Zionists were just trying to get anybody out, immigrated out that they could. And yet many countries weren't even taking any of them. So that's how the whole thing started with that. Of course, the hateful heart Candace turns it into something way more. Many German Jews, particularly those with assets or with limited means, those without assets or limited means could not benefit. Yeah, because you had to be able to have some money to be able to survive. Otherwise, Britain wasn't going to give you money. So, but then Germany was to Germany, they just were happy. They called it. In the beginning, the German regime gained several advantages. It encouraged Jewish immigration, helping to further Nazi Jewderin, Nazi Jewderin, which means Jew-free. But then quickly, they changed all that. So Of course, Candace, because she hates Jews, turns this into that it's some conspiracy. No, she proves the Bible, but she proves the same thing that's gone on in history. It's this. I mean, she's just the example of, if you let these people go on and on, they will create a new Holocaust. Because if you notice, they get worse. They get more obsessed. They get more hateful. They get more, their mind becomes more diseased. And yeah, God hands them over quickly, which is why things like the Holocaust happen. But look, long before the Holocaust, here in America, we were discriminating against the Jews. Because they all were coming from Europe. Now, I don't just mean the Jews. So like early on, a bunch of German and Europeans came, okay? And then when the Jewish people started immigrating from Europe, there's the same animosity they had in Europe at the Jews then. And this, again, before the Holocaust, before any World War I, any of that, all before that. So when they came here, they brought all that animosity with them. So it was continuing. And I learned it from this book, Lincoln and the Jews. Yeah, Lincoln was very well versed in the Bible. So, he was from Illinois, as people know. He's probably the only good politician that ever came out of Illinois, okay? Did Reagan come out of Illinois? But Lincoln for sure, okay? Everything's been downhill since Lincoln. Anyway, but he was very well versed in their Bible. There wasn't many Jews in Illinois, so when he came across Jews, and he had some very good friends, he made good friends with them. And the Jews loved. They called him Rabbi Abraham, because he held no animosity towards them. He was actually very respectful to them, because he referred to them as the Israelites. He did, and so. Here he is dealing, gets into the presidency, and he was appointing certain, Hebrews to certain positions, but he knew he had to be careful, even though he's trying to get rid of slavery. There was also this Jew thing going on. Yeah, it's almost, I wonder, it's almost like it's almost like the Jews were treated worse, okay? Because that same mentality and ideology that came from Europe, that hated the Jews, and they were, this is all before the Holocaust, that came here, and then when the Jews came here, that same European mentality continued on at the Jews. So he would appoint certain Jews to positions, because it was during the Civil War, to fix uniforms, like army uniforms and stuff like that. And then there was this one incident where this commander got rid of all the Jews that were doing this, and just exiled them, like took all their stuff, completely. And so by the time notice, got to Lincoln, he immediately put a stop to it. But he knew that there was this constant problem, and he was putting things in place so that this stuff would stop. But yeah, this is all in the Bible. That's why once you start going down this road, don't think that I don't think God will have a lot of mercy on you. I just don't. I think that's why they become so hateful. And then that hate, Satan loves to get a hold of those people, because it'll boil and get bigger. And then the next thing you know, you have the Holocaust. I could see that. You let these people go, that would be what would happen. Because it's different than with any other group. It is. And I'm not Jewish. I'm saying it's obvious. It's obvious. Look at how hateful Dave Smith is. Look at how Candace, look at how most of these people are. They hide it for a little while, and then they can ease it in and say, well, I'm just asking questions. At this point, all Candace wants to do is, she just would never be happy with any answer, because she has a debased mind. But Lincoln, on the other hand, and most of our leaders, they were trying to, early on, were trying to put an end to this Jewish hatred. So that's how far back it goes, understand. And this was long before World War II, and it's always been continuing on. I think in 2025, we need to make an agreement that it's time for it to stop.